Welcome back to GBGuns, the Canik TP9 SF Elite Combat Executive version coming up next. Now, before we get too into the new gun, I wanted to show you real quick a brief history of the previous models. This is the TP9 DA, that's for double action. You have the anti-stress type trigger from the Walther P99, comes back with a clean break, very short reset, just like the Walther, breaks again, or you've got it cocked. You can push this button to decock it so that your first shot is that long, heavy double action. Great for when you know you're going to have a stressful situation, or working with new shooters, people who are converting over from revolvers, etc. And you can see your subsequent shots are super quick, short, light, single action. That was the DA. Just like the Walther P99, a lot of people didn't understand this, were worried that they were somehow going to disable their gun, or this button was too easy to push, all kinds of silly complaints that really just came from a misunderstanding of the purpose of the firearm. Things were simplified. The SF Elite came out, beautiful Cerakote color. We've got red in the trigger here, and this is also a shorter frame. You can see when I hold it side by side that we have reduced capacity in the SF, which the grip is the part that's hardest to conceal. We've got a 15 rounder in here versus the DA's 18 rounder. So losing 3 rounds of capacity, but also coming down in size quite a bit, losing that recockability, but still keeping that light, crisp trigger and at a value price. Awesome gun, was very popular. From there, we moved on to the Elite Combat, which was a project between Canik, Century, and Salient Arms. So we now have an aluminum trigger with a very broad safety dingus. We've got a threaded barrel, pre-cut for optics. You can remove this and comes with plates. We also have a magwell from Salient and a +3 extension on our 15 round magazine, taking us back to that 18 round size. Also have enlarged magazine release. 3 different sizes come with it. This is the medium, really big, really easy to mash for people looking for that, but you can also go to a smaller side for carry, or even bigger if you want to be able to release your magazine by thinking about it, not even looking at the darn thing. So this was the TP9 Elite Combat. What we have now is the TP9 Elite Combat Executive, which comes in this large, beautiful slide case. Inside, we have our pistol with an 18 round magazine, also a flush fitting 15 round magazine. One of those speed loaders that everyone mocks until they spend a long day at the range and then they love it. Our optics mounting plate, different backstrap. This one looks a bit more pronounced. And something that I've yet to see someone else do, this cool little kit. When you open up, has your different magazine release buttons, as well as the screws affiliated for it. You've got replacement fiber optic tubes in both red and green, in case you lose that or you want to change it out. Punch, a wrench, and this is the handle, charging handle if you will, that screws into the side of this optics plate so that you've got an easy way to charge your pistol without getting your hand all over the optic. I thought that was pretty ingenious and unique and awesome of Century and Canik to include that. It does come in a holster. They've done away with the dangerous finger button release that had the finger down here. There's the Blackhawk Serpa style, where you push that button, and as the gun comes out, if you're still applying pressure and you're not thinking about it, your finger ends up right on the trigger. Now it's this slide lock. You can see it's locked pretty well. Finger slides this, gun comes out, and it lines your finger up with the memory point. Much smarter holster. Excited about that. Get the gun out of the way, continue with what all's in our case. Registration card, a nice color, even somewhat laminate instruction on disassembly and what's different about it, because it is a little bit different. And it talks about our threads. We have our owner manual, a brush, a cleaning rod, a wrench for helping to remove the thread protector, and the backer for that holster. Let's get this out of the way and take a look at the gun. So here's our Executive with a nice black finish and gold barrel to it, all black trigger. Magazine does kick a little bit. Not a full ejection, but certainly better than release. I like that in case there's ever any crud in there, you're getting a little bit of mechanical assist to get rid of that mag. We can see that our chamber is clear, and let's take a look around the gun. Coming up front, slide to frame fit has a little bit of vertical play, zero lateral play. You can see we've got our nice knurled thread protector on here. Fiber optic front sight, which ought to grab plenty of attention. Front serrations that are good and strong for being able to check. Underneath we have 3 different spots for rail, adding a light or a laser. Serrations on the front of the trigger guard for those who like to have that support hand on there. Nice relief here underneath the magwell. Speaking of which, on this SF sized frame, my pinky would fall off if not for the magwell. It's just like a Glock 19 for me, a Gen 3 Glock 19. My pinky gets in the way of a mag reload. That's the only reason why I have a magwell on there, is it helps keep my hand clear and out of the way, so I can just shove a mag in without being worried about it. Tech string on the front strap, typical squares. We've got a little bit of texture here on the sides. This is the medium mag release button. You can see how far it sticks out there. Trigger, if I can zoom rather than bring it up. This is a new camera I'm using. Let's see what that trigger travel looks like. So safety dingus works. It won't pull without it. Come back to a wall when the trigger is perpendicular with the barrel. Brakes. Next to no over travel there. Reset very short and is right back at the wall for another break. This is a pistol that would be very easy to shoot very quickly. Continuing around the gun, we've got these little contours here, which I like for the meaty part of the FOM to be able to fit into without feeling pushed. Tang has fair deepness to it, just like all of the TP9s. On the back, this is where our serial number is. We also have a striker indicator. Pops out to let you know when the gun is charged, if you will. Side to frame, it's very snug. I want to say tighter than I've seen in the past. Our Salient designed sights, which have the square notch for doing one-handed reloads off of a belt or bench, etc. Serrations for anti-glare, and we've got, if I can get the camera to focus there, fiber optic front, nice thin front sight post to allow you to still see around it while getting a clear lineup with the rear sights. Do have ambidextrous slide release. Let's see how well it works. It works to lock. It works to release. In fact, that's probably the most fair left-sided lock and release I've ever felt. What often happens is the metal connecting the bar across here tends to torque, and on a lot of guns like the infamous Remington RP9, it torques so much that you really can't functionally use this side, which is kind of sad. So around there, we have a loaded chamber indicator right here. This guy pops up when it's around the chamber, and our beautiful titanium nitrided Salient marked barrel on there with good solid lockup. Next, let's field strip this thing and take a look inside. So field stripping these can be a little bit different than you're used to, but not too different. We're going to check for clear, pull the trigger, and pulling down on both of these takedown levers, this one on this side and that guy on that side. slide comes forward just a wee bit and then straight off. You don't need to slide it all the way out. Take a look inside our frame. We can see our steel inserts there for the rails, and nice bright shiny steel locking block, very smooth Walther style trigger, and a very solid ejector. Now, there were complaints with some of the TP9s in the past about weak ejection. I want to clarify something. Aside from the Desert Eagle, I can't think of another pistol that actually has active ejection. What happens is the round is being pulled backwards and it hits this little bar, which is just sitting there. That's all it does. It sits there. That bar, and that bar flicks it out. There is no active ejection. What causes a round to just kind of fall out of the gun versus fly across the range is the amount of energy that is moving the slide, so the speed the slide is moving with. If it's moving slowly and your round is just kind of going pleh, either you've got weak ammunition or your spring is too strong. And what appears to have happened with the earlier TP9s was, since they were made more of a military spec, they were made for 124 grain NATO, which is a hotter load than the standard 115 grain range fodder that most of us here in the States use. So I have an early TP9, had the same thing. If I ran 124 NATO, it ran perfectly. The spring was just a little too heavy. And speaking of, here's our recoil spring. It's on a steel rod. Beautiful spring, flat coil, good and strong. It does have some strength to it. I'm curious to see if that's going to work with our lighter loads or not. We'll have to see that in the What's for Dinner test. To get the barrel out, we will need to remove the thread protector. Now the barrel can come up and out, and here's our SAI, Salient Arms International barrel, the titanium nitride coating on it. I've racked this gun a few times but haven't fired it yet. It did have some test firing, and you can see everything just wipes right off of it. Nice polished feed ramp there. Check chamber support as always using our Nosler match ammunition. Chamber support, for those of you who don't know, is how well is the barrel supporting the round. We can see once it's tucked all the way in there that there is no exposed brass beyond that bend there, if you will, that shoulder, trying to keep things simple term-wise. And that's important if you're going to run a high-pressured round, if you've got recycled or weak brass, even some aluminum. When a case ruptures, it's generally in, say, like, in fact, I have a factory Glock barrel here. To contrast, Glocks are infamous for this lack of chamber support. Drop that in, and you can see underneath there how much brass is not supported. So when the round detonates and the pressures are trying to expand the brass and the brass is stretching a little bit, without support there, it's more likely to blow out a little there. If there's a failure, it's going to happen down there. Whereas full support, like we have here, keeps all the pressure pushing the bullet out the end of the gun, not letting it escape down into the mag well and not deforming the glass. That's the brass. That's where the Glock Smile nickname came from, because it does leave a little smiley shape on the brass. Looking inside our slide, very clean, simplistic design, very clean machining. It's a sharp looking gun, really good looking gun. And you might notice that, if I get the camera to focus, the struggles of having a new camera. 1/2 x 28. Finally, it is threaded for US suppressor devices and muzzle devices. Well done there, Century, Salient, Canik, for getting everything together. When we take this out to the range, we'll of course do full mag +1. We're going to run our What's for Dinner test, running light loads through heavy loads, brass, aluminum, nickel plated, and steel casing, hollow points, flat nose, you name it. We'll see what the gun runs on and doesn't, and then we'll group it and give you our impressions of shooting it. I'm pausing here to show you where reassembly is different. You want your frames here, or your rails to line up with this cut on the slide. Just slap it straight on, pull it back, and your gun's ready to go. Again, with that awesome trigger, that's going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to this. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Executive. As far as I can tell, coloring is the only real difference between it and the other Elite Combat. If those of you who are super into these have noticed or know of something else, please comment down below so that we can all learn from it. And we'll see you on the range. Thanks for watching.